Starting in Mario Kart DS, each Mario Kart would include 16 retro courses to go along with the 16 new ones. And although DS started the trend, they were pretty bad until 7, before being perfected in 8. And with rumors of Switch 2 on the horizon, I thought it would be fun to try and plan out the retro courses for a theoretical Mario Kart 9. I do have a few opinions on what should qualify and how those courses should be remade. The biggest reason DS and Wii retro courses were so bad was because they were faithful remakes of tracks from much less ambitious games. 7, meanwhile, reworked a few courses that were a bit outdated, and 8 had full redesigns of courses that didn't really hold up to modern standards. To me, a good remake is additive. Rather than taking away or replacing elements of the original, it adds modern features and fixes flaws of the original. I'll be making note of where I think these remakes could use a bit of an upgrade. With all that in mind, here are my 16 choices for my ideal retro cups, starting with the Shell Cup. This first cup is usually fairly simple in order to help new players ease in, but just because it's simple doesn't mean it can't be fun, so let's get started. Mario Circuit 4 is the forgotten older sibling from the Super Nintendo, gathering dust while every other Mario circuit gets to come back. Every new game is obligated to add at least one SNES track, and I'd personally prefer to bring back the one that's actually fun. It has a lot more going on than most Super Nintendo tracks, although it could probably use a few more obstacles. My only hope is that it takes inspiration from Mario Circuit 2's excellent remake, and not 3, which has refused to improve every single time it's come back. Cheep Cheep Island. Not my favorite track from Super Circuit, but one of the best aesthetically. It's got a really charming sunset vibe that would look great with modern graphics. That beautiful skybox is honestly one of my favorites from an already very pretty looking game. In terms of modern updates, this course could use expanded underwater driving like Cheep Cheep Beach, or a glider ramp on the bridge. It's not what I'd call a fan favorite, but it really does not deserve to be forgotten like most of the other tracks from Super Circuit. In my opinion, Sunshine Airport is one of the most iconic new tracks from 8. It's got a really unique theme that I haven't really seen replicated all that well, even among the other courses like it. I mean, it's also one of my personal favorites, but, the priority courses anyone picks are going to be affected by bias, so I'm allowed to pick what I want. For what it's worth, this is a very, very fun track, and I would not be upset if it came back completely unchanged. But I do think it could spend some more time in the terminal, and I'd also like for a little more freedom of movement, like shortcuts or side routes, because it's kinda linear as is. Honestly, N64 Wario Stadium is probably the worst course from its original game, which is probably why it's the only N64 track to never come back in a new Mario Kart. I really can't blame Nintendo for replacing it with the better DS version, but I don't think the original is unsalvageable. The course does need to be shrunk down a lot, and it could use modern features like tricks, half-pipes, and boost pads. It also needs some aesthetic upgrades to differentiate from existing stadiums. But I think it has the potential to be a great course. It just isn't really in the game where it can work. And now, the Banana Cup. While actual retro cups don't really follow themes, I thought the added connectivity could, add something extra to spice it up. I wanted this cup to be themed around exploration, and it's honestly mostly based on vibes rather than gameplay. Delfino Square. While it did return in Wii, it was more of a faithful recreation than an actual remake. In its original state, it was a pretty solid course, although it does feel a little empty nowadays, with almost no alternate routes and kind of lame obstacles. I think a good addition would be an alternate path across the rooftops, or an underwater route off the dock path. Otherwise, this course is very solid aesthetically in the original, before re-dunked it into the 7th gen urine filter. Wario Shipyard was a pretty solid track in 7, with some good aesthetics and some nice gameplay, but I feel it was held back a lot by being on the 3DS. With a bit of polish, it could definitely shine in the console Mario Kart. But outside of that, it really doesn't have any glaring issues, especially since it was one of the best new tracks in 7. I'd just really like to see it return with a fresh coat of paint and maybe a slightly improved song. I don't even think that most die-hard Wii fans remember Dry Dry Ruins. It was a very mediocre track squished between some of the most memorable courses in the franchise, so there really isn't any wonder it slipped between the cracks. But while it was pretty meh, it has the bones of a good track buried in there. It would need a big rework to become good, but the effort would be worth it for one of the few aesthetically interesting desert courses. Also, did you know that Dry Dry Desert stole the falling trick pillars from this course? Just another reason to hate that fraud. Cloudtop Cruise is without a doubt one of the best new courses in 8. Between the incredible music, how awesome the dynamic change is in the Thunderhead, I sincerely cannot think of anything I dislike about it. It's just that good of a course. I also do think that it's enough of a fan favorite to justify its immediate return in 9. It doesn't even really need any changes to the gameplay. It's just really solid on its own, and I think it would stand up really well in this next Mario Kart game. Up next, the Leaf Cup. This is where the games start to ramp up the difficulty of the retro courses, and I think a good theme for that would be moving parts. Shifting obstacles are good for making a course feel more difficult and dynamic without necessarily having to make it a lot more complex. Mushroom City. Two of my least favorite course themes are cities and traffic, and this one is both. But it does have its own charm to it that none of the others really have for me. It's a bit too simple without Double Dash's wacky controls, but it could make up for that by taking inspiration from Moonview Highway or some of the better Tour tracks. I don't think Tour's alternate laps may work as well, but some boost pads or glider ramps could really add an extra dimension that would really make this course feel refreshing and new. Alright, Toad's Factory is basically guaranteed to come back in 9. It's a fan favorite from the second best-selling game in the series that wasn't in the Booster Course Pass, so it's not really a question of if it's going to be in the next game, it's more of a question of why wouldn't it be. I can't really think of anything that needs to be improved in this course, which is kind of a testament to just how good it is on its own. I find it really weird that Piranha Plant Pipeline was the only Tour original that didn't come back in the Booster Course Pass. Maybe there were too many Piranha Plant courses in the base game, I don't know. But it is a shame that this course is trapped on the App Store at the moment. I'll admit I haven't played it, but from secondhand footage, it does look solid. It could be a bit longer, but it's a Tour track, so I assume it would be stretched out by default. And hey, since 99% of all Mario Kart players have never touched it, it might as well be the 17th Nitro track. DS Bowser Castle. While I will concede that Airship Fortress does need to come back, I'm tired of this course being overlooked. Very few 3D Bowser's Castles have come back, and in my opinion, this is one of the best ones. It has a lot of fun obstacles like the spinning tube at the end and the rotating room with a risky shortcut. Considering how good the few modern Bowser's Castle remakes have been, this one would absolutely be a banger. And finally, the Lightning Cup. In every game, this cup tends to be as good as, if not better than, the Special Cup, so the standards are pretty high. I decided on the cream of the crop and the most climactic tracks of the franchise. Here we go. Lakeside Park. Okay, I know this sounds insane with how much I hyped this up, but hear me out. This is one of the best courses in Super Circuit with a really solid aesthetic and legitimately fun course design. It just never got a chance to show it off due to the limitations of being stuck on a gameplay. I mean, just look at Ribbon Road and Riverside Park and not Cheeseland. There is a lot of potential here as long as they cut out the bad parts and keep what made it a standout. Big Blue is by far my absolute favorite track in 8, and it definitely deserves to be in the next game. I really don't have much to say about it since the high-speed thrills are perfect for the Final Cup. It may seem weird that it's second here, but it would be a bit repetitive if it closed out 2 games in a row, and I really didn't want it to take away from the 3-section track at the end of this Lightning Cup. Out of the 2 Rainbow Roads to never return, the GameCube version deserves a lot more love than it gets. It feels like the perfect middle ground of Wii's difficulty and N64's beauty, and I would love for it to come back. It may lose a bit of charm without Double Dash's jank, but I don't think that would be enough to make it worse. Not to mention I need to hear its theme in HD. It's probably the best Rainbow Road theme ever, like, dear God. And to cap it all off, Maka Woohoo from 3DS. This course really does feel like it was intended to be the finale of 7, but was pushed back due to Rainbow Road obligations. I'll admit that it definitely could be a stronger course, but it was already good to begin with. Just add a little bit of lava in the cave section and better obstacles at the start, and this could absolutely be one of the best retro remakes in the series, as well as the triumphant return of the Wii Sports Resorts courses. The final jump off the volcano and the majestic glide into the sunset would be the perfect ending to cap off the whole game.